He brought a roast chicken to his friend's house for a visit, but the moment he stepped inside, car, and headed toward Tallymore Village. Meanwhile, the two had finished swimming, but just as they were about to part, the agent's car suddenly appeared. Jack didn't realize the man was the lottery agent and kindly gave him directions, until the man said he was looking for a person named Ned. Then it clicked. He hurriedly said Ned was an old friend and that he could find Ned's house with his eyes closed. Hearing the conversation from behind a rock, Michael immediately understood. After Jack and the agent left, he quickly put on his helmet and took a shortcut home on his motorcycle. Meanwhile, Jack, leading the agent, deliberately drove around the hills to buy Michael more time, making excuses about his age and poor memory. Left, then right, until he felt enough time had passed. Only then did he take the agent to Ned's front door. When the door opened, Michael was there, wrapped in a towel, pretending he had just taken a shower. The claims agent, Jim, didn't suspect anything, he just thought Ned seemed nervous. He told Michael to get dressed and began verifying his identity. Michael answered Jim's questions according to their prepared script, date of birth, social security number, and so on. Everything went smoothly. After collecting the ticket, Jim told Michael even more astonishing news. This lottery ticket was worth a full £6.89 million. When Michael heard that number, he was stunned. He and Jack had thought the jackpot was around 500,000. They had never imagined it could be this much. Jim explained that the first prize should have been around 1 million, but since no one had won in the previous weeks, the prize pool had rolled over. It was the largest payout of his career. Just as Jim was about to write the check, he asked Michael if he had written his name on the back of the ticket. Michael said yes. Jim said that because Ned's name was written on the back, the ticket had some special conditions. He would need to do some investigating and would return in a few days to interview the villagers, making sure the person he had met was indeed Ned. If everything checked out, the prize would be paid. After Jim left, Jack and Michael breathed a huge sigh of relief, but they also felt enormous pressure. They knew that once Jim started asking around the village, their scheme would easily be exposed. Moreover, Jack's wife, Anne, had found out about their plan. She was furious and had a big fight with Jack. She was afraid they would go to prison for fraud and their family would be destroyed, and told Jack she would rather live in poverty than live in fear. She wasn't as adventurous as Jack and Michael. She valued the stability and happiness of her family. She knew clearly that if the scheme fell apart, the consequences would be disastrous. Jack and Michael knew the risks too, but the temptation of such a huge prize was overwhelming. Just when they were at a loss, Jack had a new idea. The risk was too great for just two people. Why not bring the whole village in on it? The prize was nearly £7 million. The village had fewer than 50 people. Each person would get about £130,000. It was the best solution. No one would turn them in, and they could handle the agent's questions. They agreed. Jack acted as the spokesperson. He gathered all the villagers and told them, Ned had won the £6.89 million jackpot, but he was dead and had no relatives to inherit it. If the whole village worked together to impersonate Ned and claim the prize, each person would get £130,000. If anyone disagreed, Jack said he would go to the police station and confess, and then not only would no one get a penny, but millions would be taken by the state. He asked them to think it over, which mattered more. The words left the villagers deep in thought. Some looked uneasy, others were excited. At first they hesitated, it was fraud, after all, and illegal. But £130,000 was more money than any of the poor villagers of Tallymore could earn in a lifetime. It could pay off their debts, build new houses, give their children better educations. It could lift them out of poverty and give them the lives they dreamed of. In the end, after Jack's persuasion, the villagers changed their minds one by one. One after another, they signed the agreement. Tempted by the huge fortune, they set aside their principles and began planning to cover for each other and commit the fraud. Just when everyone thought it was settled, a problem arose. When they checked the list, they found that one old woman in the village had not signed. Her name was Richie. She was reclusive, bad-tempered, and had never gotten along with anyone in the village. Nevertheless, for the sake of the prize money, the villagers, now united by a common goal, gathered outside her door with gifts, hoping to persuade her to sign. But before they could say a word, Richie flatly refused. Just £130,000. She knew that reporting lottery fraud would get her 10% of the prize, £670,000. She even threatened Jack, if he didn't give her £1 million, she would call the lottery company immediately and expose the whole scheme. Her threat threw the entire village into panic. They knew that with one phone call, all their dreams would vanish, and they might even end up in prison. They had never met anyone so stubborn. But because Ned's body was about to start smelling, with no other choice, they set aside the matter for the moment and began arranging his burial. But to everyone's surprise, just after the funeral began, the claims agent, Jim, suddenly appeared. The moment he walked in, he sneezed. Everyone was terrified, thinking the scheme was about to be exposed. Jack, who was leading the service, had to think fast. He changed his words and said the man in the coffin was his good friend Michael. Jim didn't suspect a thing. He thought he had simply arrived in the middle of a funeral. After the service, Jim found Michael and told him he had already made inquiries in the village. He confirmed that Michael was indeed Ned. And just like that, in the middle of an absurd funeral, Jim handed Michael the check for £6.89 million. After Jim left, the entire village erupted in cheers. They had finally succeeded. Everyone was about to get £130,000. The pub owner announced that drinks were on him for the whole night. The villagers raised their glasses, joy on every face. But amid the celebrations, no one noticed that Richie, the one who had been causing trouble all along, had already set off. She was determined to expose the fraud and claim her 10% reward. What she didn't expect was that her electric wheelchair broke down halfway. With no other option, she had to walk to the phone booth at the village entrance to make the call. But the lottery agent was also leaving the village right behind her. With a crash, the phone booth fell, and everything ended. The film doesn't deliberately condemn anyone, nor does it deliberately praise anyone. It simply depicts, from an objective perspective, a group of ordinary people living at the bottom of society. Though the villagers' act of claiming the prize was illegal, it was an instinctive choice made by people pushed to the edge by life. They didn't take the money to become bad, they took it so they could finally escape their miserable existence. And real evil has never been poverty, but greed and selfishness. Richie was not satisfied with a share of over 100,000. She wanted to extort even more. On the surface, she was reporting a criminal act, but in truth she was lashing out after her blackmail attempt failed. She would rather destroy everything than let others have anything. Good people come together to keep each other warm. The selfish are eventually eliminated by fate.